Okay, guys, yeah, fine. Whoever want to join late, let them join late. We'll start. Our time it's over. Okay, yesterday's class we have discussed about exceptions and how to handle the exceptions by using try, catch, and finally throws and throw. Okay, today we are discussing more about the exceptions only. So there may be some times. Okay, sometimes a single line, sometimes a single statement can also throw multiple exceptions. Okay, so that time, let's say we'll take up some scenarios. Let's take some scenarios. We'll take up some example. Close all. Where we are exceptions. Yeah, plus L multi H H test. Let's see. Sometimes before what we are writing of like simply like I by j, right? 10 by 0 or 20 by 0, like that we are getting that time. It is giving of only single exceptions, right? That time it is giving of single exceptions with that line, like 10 by 0 means it is giving, always it will throw off with this line. It throw only arithmetic exception always. Okay, we'll take up some more example. String string some array will take it. Okay, here string here equal to, will take up some data. Okay, ibc, okay, comma 100, comma, and will take up some xyz, like that, xyz, and some null values also. Okay, so I have taken one string array with some data. I have taken one string array with some data I have taken. Let's say I want to iterate the data of this one. Okay, I want to convert all the data of this IBC 100 and XYZ and null. Right. Let me iterate of this code. Okay, by using for loop. Let me iterate it. Okay, for just select of the first one. Okay, that's it. So automatically the code will generate. Now first I zeroth position value I'm getting. Okay, first zeroth position value I'm getting, and then let me try that. So there is some string is there, some number is there, and some string, some null value is there. Let me convert this values to all values to numbers, or else let's take it off 1 2 3. Okay, so I have number is there, this is also number, this is string, this is null. So I'm trying to convert of this number into integer. It is, now it is in string form. Okay, in double quotes, right? Let me convert that into string form. Okay, right now it is on string. Now I'll convert that to integer. Okay, I'll convert it to integer. Now let's f here of array of I at a zeroth position. Okay, array of I. So I'm converting this string into integer. Okay, I'm converting the string into controller integer dot parse int. So what is the, so actually this is the integer value, right? It is in string form. Now I want to pass that value to integer. So there is a method called parse int method. So it will convert string value into integer value. Okay, string into integer value it will convert, and that value I'm storing in some integer variable. Okay, int int a, some variable. Okay, any variable. Now it is converted that string into integer, and let's display of that value. Okay, integer int value, integer value. Okay, let's a. Okay, now let's assume we don't have these two. Just assume for time being. So let's see. How it will happen, whether it will print or not. See, integer value is 23, integer value is 100. Both are done successfully. Now let's add one string value and one null value. One string value and one null value also I am passing. Okay. Now let's see. I'm converting. Now let's see. Is there any error will come or not? Okay. What is the error it is coming, guys? Now it is coming of error number format exception for input to string xyz. You are trying to convert string xyz into number. You are trying to convert string xyz value into number. That is not possible. Correct or not? This is of string value of characters, right? It is not. It is of xyz string values, right? So we can't convert this string into number. Okay, that is the reason it is giving of number format exception. Then you have not given the correct number. Okay, you have given different other than number you have passed in your values. That's what the meaning of this one. For input string xyz you are, we can't convert into integer value. Okay, let's say, for suppose, let's handle that exception. Let's handle that exception. Then to handle that exception, okay, to handle that number format exception, we need to write, off the statement in. We need to write off whichever it is converting the statement which is causing the exception, which is causing the exception. Now we'll convert that into, we'll convert into number. Now let's add into try. Okay, add into try block. Now it is of number format exception. System.out.println will give off some message. Yeah, please pass integer data in the array. Please pass int data in array. Okay, in array. Okay, or please check the input data. Okay, now if any number format exception is coming, it is fine, right? Please pass the input data in array. It is giving of a number format exception. Okay, now let's say if you are trying to convert okay, now sometimes this value is coming as null is there, one of the value is null. If it is not there, if the value is there, let's print the length of that. Let's print length of that value, length. Okay, and just call of length method. Okay, call of length method. Now let's see what is the exception this time it will throw. What happen? Ref length is this one. Rfi length is correct only. Dot length is fine. Let's read it. Let's pass this as some value. Now we'll check for validating of null situation. Number format exception we have catched. Okay, so before itself, here itself it is throwing as a number format exception. So this line will keep in the above. Okay, this line will keep in the above. Now let's see. Now, if it is a number, no issue. Anything even XYZ also, XY, XYZ, whatever it is previous. Now, so while reading this one, it is giving of length is giving 3. Okay. Control X, system.out.println, print the length of each string. Okay. into the length of each string, go up. Length. See, first integer length is 3 and the integer length of 100 is 3. Next xyz length is 3. In that case, it is giving an message, please plus input data in array, into data in array. Please check input. Okay, check input is best. Input array. Please check input array. Now, on third case, it is giving of error because of number format exception. It is giving an xyz, but you are trying to convert into integer. Okay, that is the reason it is giving of this error. After that, that exception is we handled. It is a number format exception. So we handle and this message also displayed. And when it is going to next iteration, when it is going to next iteration, next it is coming as a null value. Okay, null dot length, it is giving of number format exception in line number 11. Line number 11, number sorry, null pointer exception is coming. Why null pointer exception? On null object, null is a string, right? Null is of default value of string. The null value are calling length method on top of null value. So that is the reason it is giving of null pointer exception. That is the reason it is giving null pointer exception. Let's handle null pointer exception also. Okay, null pointer exception. Okay. Now we'll give up some message. Please pass non-null values. Okay, please pass non-null. Please check val. Please pass non-null input in array. Okay, non-null. Okay, some other values. Now this time, one time it will give up. Please check input array. Please check input array. And next we are passing. Please pass non. See, please pass non-null input array. Okay, we are passing of one null value. So that is the reason we are telling of please pass non-null. So even we handled of null pointer exception also. Okay. Now let's say for example, if I'm changing the length, how many is there? 1, 2, 3, 4 is there. Matter. If I'm giving here as it is starting from zeroth position, 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, if I'm giving here length as 4, okay, it is giving length as 0 1 2 3, up to that it will execute. There is no fourth value, right? There is no fourth value. Then in this case it is going to give of it is going to give one more array index out of bound exception. It is going to give off array index out of bound exception. Oh, it's not you're not given any value is equal 0 I less than 4 0 1 2 3, right? S of I, let's try for 5. Yeah, it is length 5, right? Length is going to give same. Yeah, see, even in this case before also we will get, okay, but we need to use of less than or equal to. For giving less than or equal to, it will throw an error. So then in that case it will execute for that fourth condition also. Okay, but there is no up to 0 to 0 1 2 3 is there is no fourth value is available. So that is the reason it is giving of array index out of bound exception. Array index out of bound exception. Let's handle that also. So array index out of bound exception. Okay, give array index is out of range. Okay, array index is out of range. Now let's see. Now in this case we handle that exception. It will give off. See, it is array index is out of range. It is giving all the error messages. Okay. Now here, yeah, go ahead, please. Ye- Yes, then in that case, you can print this value simply, right? I value system.out.println of I value. You can I the I is the index value. Okay, I value is I. Just to print that I value. In which position it is causing error, it will tell that. Leave leave it this length. Okay, string length. String length is I value. Now let's see. Now see I value is 0th position. Okay. Now string length is 3 and the value is this one. Sorry guys. The first iteration is done. Okay. Next second iteration. I value is 1. Okay. The I value is 1 and string length is 0, 1, 2, 3. Right? 3. Sorry, 1, 2, 3. The length is 3 and the value of that is 100. Next I value is 2. The length is xyz length is 3 and it is giving an array. So it is giving some input. Please check input array. Please check input array. Now let's try for that message. It is of it is giving some exception. See number format exception, or else we'll keep up here better which exception is throw to know that. Yeah. Now let's run it. Yeah. See it now at line number at I position is 2. At position 2, I value is 2 and the iteration 2 position it is giving of exception after length. After length, it is trying to convert that xyz value into integer. That time it is throwing off some exception. At that time it is throwing off some exception. After that, see the integer value string is not displayed. After length, directly it is displayed of number format exception. Please check input array. Okay. Next again next I value is 3. I value is 3. This time it is giving of I value is 3. That's it. After that the length is also it is giving as it is not giving even string length also. In that case it is giving of error in this line. In this line, what is the exception? It is number format exception is thrown in this line number 12. Line number 12 because only I value is printed 3. Only I value is printed. After that it is not printing of the length of this one because there is no length. It is a null value, right? It is a null value. So if you are trying to call any method on top of null, it will throw null pointer exception. It will throw null pointer exception. It will throw that. Okay, that's what is happened. So in this case it is throwing off null pointer exception. And please pass the non null input array. Yeah, go ahead. These are classes. These exception is also class. Under that, all these are subclasses. All classes, all exception classes are subclass of exception class. Any exception is subclass of exception class. If you want, you can go and check it. See, it is number format exception. So this is extending of illegal argument exception. Let's see, it may be extending of this also. See, illegal argument exception is extending of runtime exception. Runtime exception is extending of exception. At finally, all these classes are subclasses of exception class. At finally, some class is extending exception class. That class is extended by some other class. See, the runtime exception class is extended by exception. This runtime exception class is runtime exception class is extended by illegal argument exception. Again, this argument exception is extended by number format exception. So that means that all classes are under exception. All are subclasses. So any class, any exception class is a subclass of exception. Any exception, whatever the class that is there, all are under this only. All are under this class only. Okay. The root exception class is the root of all exceptions is throwable. Under that we have exception is there. Under that all exception classes are there. Okay. Now instead of writing these many catches, we are writing multiple. This line is causing multiple exceptions, right? One is throwing off number format exception. One is throwing off null pointer exception. The index is throwing off array index out of bound exception. Right. Now instead of writing these many things, instead of writing these many catch blocks for each exception, we are writing one catch block. Correct or not? Instead of writing multiple catch blocks, I want to write a single catch block with all exceptions. With all exceptions, I want to write a single catch block. Single catch block. Let's say we're writing three exceptions, right? Let's take it. This exception catch block. Take exception. Okay. Give space and then give pipe symbol. What is the second exception? Null pointer exception. Right. Null pointer exception. Give pipe symbol and give one more exception, array index out of bound exception. See. Okay. We are writing three and give some message system dot out dot println enough. Please handle the exception. We can give some. We're getting all any. We don't know any exception is coming. Okay. Now in that case, we can give system dot out dot println enough. Um, ex, exception. If exception is e dot to string. E dot to string. Now let's see how many exceptions it will throw. How many exceptions it is there? First one is number format exception it is thrown. The message is for input string xyz. You are trying to convert xyz into string integer. That is not possible. That is the reason it is going throwing exception of a number format exception. Next it is a null. So that time it is throwing off a null pointer exception. Next fourth one. So we have only four values, but you are trying to get off a fifth value also. That time it is giving off array index out of bound exception. So in this case, a single catch block also can handle multiple exceptions by using pipe symbol. That's what the multiple catch blocks. Okay. In some cases, a single statement may throw off more than one exception, one type of. In such case, Java allows you can put more than one catch blocks. We can write it. One catch block handles one type of exception. Like that, we are writing up for each exception. We are writing one catch block. This is one catch block. This is another catch block. This of one more catch block. So instead of writing of these many catch blocks, we can write a single catch block with all the exceptions. So that feature is introduced in. Okay, that feature multiple exceptions with a single catch. That feature was introduced in Java 1.7 onwards only. Okay, before that this feature was not there. Okay, now yeah, from Java 1.7 onwards, there is one more way for handling multiple exceptions. Multiple exceptions thrown by try block can be handled by a single catch block using pipe symbol. By using pipe symbol. Okay. Next, that refactoring of the code is yeah, this one single catch block with all exceptions. Single catch block with all exceptions. This what this. Next. Now, there may be sometimes you don't know, there may be some extra exception also coming. You don't know, there may be a extra exception also coming due to our code. That time you don't know how to handle that exception. Then in that case, we have a provision. We have a provision. There is one exception catch block. If you are handling catch block of exception, catch block of exception, system dot out dot println of e dot to string e dot then any exception can be, if I'm writing catch block with exception, okay, instead of number format, null pointer and array index out of bound exception, instead of that if I'm writing single catch block with exception, this exception is can handle any exception catch block can catch off any type of exception, any type of exception in the code. Let's see type of see, even in this case also, whatever that is throwing all this with multiple exceptions, even the single catch block also is throwing. This is most generic way, guys, not most specific. So normally we will catch the exception with specific exception, not with exception. Like if number format exception is coming, then we'll write a catch block with the number format exception, like that we'll write, but very rare case we'll write off catch block with exception. At that too we'll write this catch of exception at the last catch block only, at last catch block only. If I am keeping this catch block, this catch block as a first catch block in this one, then in this case this code will never execute. The reason is any exception can be handled by this catch block. So then what is the when the JVM will execute this catch block, so the compiler can catch it. This catch block will never be executed at any situation. So this is of unreachable code. It is of, see, unreachable catch block for number format exception. It is already handled by the catch block for exception. So this catch block can handle of all the exceptions of the below catch block. So it cannot. So compulsory the catch block with exception, catch block with exception must be at the end of last catch block. If you want to add it, it's not mandatory. If you want to add the catch block with exception, that must be last one. Okay, first we need to write off most specific exception catch block, most specific exception class, most specific specific exception class catch block we need to write. At the end only we need to write most generic one. So we can, it can handle of any exception. That must be, if any exception that is not there out of this, then handle by using this catch block. If it is throwing off some different arithmetic exception, if it is throwing off some different arithmetic exception, then in this case let's say system.out.println 10 by 0. Okay, 10 by 0. So this will throw off arithmetic exception. Do you have any arithmetic exception in this case, guys, in this catch block? It is not there, right? So that is the reason, then in that case this catch block will execute. Now let's say without that it will throw an error. See, without this it will throw, see, divide by arithmetic exception is throwing, right? Now let's say if I am adding it, if I am adding this, now let's see. Even it is throwing arithmetic exception every time, no issue, okay? But that exception is also catching by using catch block with exception, catch block with exception. Most generic way this one. Okay, guys. Whenever you are writing of one try block can contains of multiple catch blocks, right? So then in that case we should write the order of writing the catch blocks, the order of writing the catch blocks should be most most specific to most generic, most specific to most generic means, let's say, let's take it off one more. Mm, catch test, catch block, block test. Now not out that println enough. It's not out that println enough. 10 by 0. So we know this will throw off some arithmetic exception, right? Everyone knows that. So if I'm writing the statement in try catch, okay, if I'm writing the statement in try block, then if I'm writing here, if I'm writing here as directly exception of system.out.println of e dot to string, then let's see whether this exception can be handled by the catch block or not. See, it is exception is handled by the catch block, right? If I'm giving as null pointer exception, then this will not handle that exception. It will throw and divide by 0. Exception is throwing. Exception is throwing. So this catch block is not able to handle the arithmetic exception. Okay, right? Then in that case, what we can write? We can write of arithmetic exception catch block, right? Specific one. This is specifically we are writing for arithmetic exception catch block. See, it is handle that exception, right? Now, so whenever you are writing that catch blocks, compulsory the catch of exception must be at the last position only. In last position. See, in this case, it is also throwing exception, but which line it is throwing means now let's see, give off exception. That means this block is executing. That means okay. Now if I am now let's see, in this case which catch block is executing, will come to know that. See, it is executing of arithmetic exception java.lang dot this one is executing, right? Now if this is not there, okay, now let's see, it is giving of exception of after colon, it is giving of arithmetic exception, right? Now if I am keeping this catch block as after this, okay, then this catch block will never execute because this catch block is handling all exception, right? That is the reason it is giving of unreachable code. The way of adding the catch block is most specific to most generic. In the reverse order is not possible. In this way only it is possible. Most generic, most specific to most generic one. Okay, that's what. Now let's see, the order of catch blocks should be in from most specific to most generic ones. This is of most, this is of most specific one, this is of most generic one. So in this case, in subclass of exception must come first, subclass of exception must come first, and then superclass comes later. Okay, so exception is superclass of all classes, right? So it must be at the last position only. If you keep the superclass first, subclass later, you will get a compilation error. The reason is unreachable catch block. This exception will rise. So we are writing first is catch with exception, next catch with number format exception. This is not possible. So we need to do reverse way. First is most specific to most generic one. Okay. Next. So while printing of information about the exception, so we are printing the data, right? So let's say, for example, of in the catch block, this e object, it is of object of arithmetic class, arithmetic exception class object. The e is in this case, it is object of exception, right? Now inside this e, the e object contains of some methods. E object contains some methods. What is that? Let's see. First we will see e dot print stack trace. If I'm printing, so this is handle, exception is handling, but I'm printing of print stack trace. It will print of exception details, everything. It will print exception information. See, it is giving off exception and its description, everything is displaying. If you are using e dot print stack trace means okay. Now let's remove this and then try. Even this case also it is we are handled exception, arithmetic exception, but we are printing off in the catch block e dot print stack trace. So the print stack trace, okay, name of the exception first it will print. Name of the exception first it will print. It is of arithmetic exception. Next, description of the exception. This is description of exception. It is divide by 0. Okay, this is a description of exception. Next is stack trace. The whatever that is there in the next, it is of stack trace. Okay, now if I am next is to string. In this case, instead of calling of e dot print stack trace, if I am printing system dot out dot println of e dot to string, e dot to string, then in this case, see whether it is displaying the below stack trace or not, or only with exception with description it is displaying, or what it is displaying, we'll see. See, it is displaying only exception with description. It is displaying if you are using of toString method. See, toString method, if you are calling on exception, the name of the exception it will print, and description of the exception it will print. Okay. Now, if you want to know only the description of the exception, if you want to know only the description of the exception, then in that case we can call that as get message. There is a method called get message. Okay, exception message. Then in this case, it will print only divide by 0. Description of the error only it will print. See, it is printing only divide by 0 only. So depends on what you want to print in the log, the exception log. So based on that, you can print off either stack trace you can print, either only exception with message or only with message. So whichever you want, we can use accordingly from the exception object. That's what these three methods. Methods to print exception information. Methods to print exception information is print stack trace, toString method, get message. Like that, these methods will print about exception information. Okay. Next, see this one. Given of all three. Okay, given of all three also we can write in single line. Can write in catch block. This will give entire information of exception. Entire information of exception. Next, this is giving of this line. Okay. Next, this is giving of divide by 0 message. Divide by 0 message. It is giving. That's what this one. Okay. Next, finally block. Next one is finally block. Finally block means so till now we are writing of our code in till now we are writing our code in as a try block or catch block only till now, right? Then what type of code that we will write inside finally block? Okay, what type of code that we can write inside finally block? The finally block is used to execute of sometimes let's say in this line system.out.println of hello. Okay. So in this case, if this line is throwing exception, so do you mean will this line of the line number 8 will execute or not? Will not execute, right? Because this line is throwing exception. So if you are writing any cleanup code, if you are writing any cleanup code, means removing of unused objects, removing of connection, okay, remove of connection, all those things, okay, then those code you can write inside finally block only. If you are writing that cleanup code inside try block, it is not guaranteed that compulsory the try block statement all statements will execute. Okay, there is no guarantee that if any exception is throwing, then the rest of the lines in the try block will not execute. Okay, if it is a success scenario means and it will print off 5 and sorry, it will print 5 and hello. 5 and hello. This is success scenario. There may be some failure scenario also will be there, right? In that case, this hello will not print. Hello will not print. This is a failure scenario. In that case, we are writing the cleanup code, then it is not guaranteed like 100% all lines of code will be executed inside try block. So in that situation, we will write some lines of code. We will write some lines of code. Let's say if I am writing this line of code, okay, in finally block, in finally block, it doesn't matter. Even though this exception is throwing and this catch block is executed, even though also this finally block will execute. Now let's see. Hello is printed even though exception is coming, and even though also this finally block is executed with the final block, whatever the statements that is available inside that, right? Now let's read the content of this. Okay. Now it is never recommended to take a cleanup code. It is never recommended to write a cleanup code inside a try block. Why means because there is no guarantee. There is no guarantee for the execution of every statement inside try block. There is no guarantee, right? So that is the reason it is not recommended to write cleanup code inside try block. And it is never recommended to place cleanup code inside catch block also. If any exception is coming, then only the catch block will execute. If you are writing the cleanup code inside catch block also, sometimes that catch block will not execute if you are giving the values as correct everything. Okay, even that time the cleanup code will not execute. Even that is also not recommended. Okay, we require some place we required some place to maintain the cleanup code, which should be executed always. It should be executed always. If any exception is coming also doesn't matter. If exception not coming also doesn't matter. I want to execute some line of code always. Okay, irrespective of whether exception is coming or not, or whether coming exception is handled or not, doesn't matter. But I want to execute of some line of code always. Okay, then in that case we can keep such type of code. We can keep such type of code inside finally block. Inside finally block. So the hence the main objective of finally block is to maintain the cleanup code. To maintain cleanup code. Now see from this, the try block will write what type of code? Any line which may throw an exception, we will throw that lines of code inside try block. And catch blocks to handle the exceptions which is throwing by catch block. The final block, we will write the code of cleanup related code. Cleanup code, we will write it. Okay. Next, this is what about and next. Note the specialty of finally block is it will be executed always irrespective of whether exception is raised or not, raised exception is handled or not. It doesn't matter. Always that finally block will execute. Let's take it off. Some example. Already I have written right. System.out.println enough catch block is finally block. Okay. Only catch block and finally block executed, right? Because of exception. If I am giving correct values, then try block and then try block is executed with some value, and oh, this is causing issue. Yeah, try block is executed with value, and catch block is there is no exception. So that is the reason catch block is not executed, and final block is executed. Okay, now let's take it off. Some scenarios I have given in the document. This is without any exception. So only try and final block is executed without catch. Let's throw off some exception. This may throw off some arithmetic exception. Try block will execute and catch block also will execute and final block also is executed even though after catching the exception. Okay. Next, this one. Try block started. It is throwing off some exception and this exception is only arithmetic exception, but we are using of catch block exception. We are using catch block with null pointer exception. This catch is not executed. Okay, and even that case also, even in that case also, the finally block is executed. Even the exception is not handled also, the finally block will execute always. Next, the difference between final, finally, and finalize. Finally, finalize. Now, finally is a block that we know to write off cleanup related code, right? Let's see final. Final is a modifier. If a variable is declared as final, then we can't modify the variable. If a class is declared as final, then we can't extend that class. Right? We can't extend that class in the subclass. If a method is declared as final, then we can't override that method in the subclass. Right? Final modifier is applicable for classes, methods, and variables. Okay. If a class is declared as final, then we can't extend that class. Okay, we can't create a child class for that class. So inheritance is not applicable for final classes. Okay, if a method is declared as final, then we can't override that method in the child classes. Okay, so overriding is not applicable for if the method is final. If a variable is declared as final, then we can't perform reassignments. We can't perform reassignments. We can't perform of reassignments. Okay. So if a equal to 20 means this is not possible. See, it is throwing off error. We can't reassign the values for the final variable. So that is not possible. That's what the meaning of that. Next, finally block. Finally is a block always associated with try catch to maintain the cleanup code. So it will be along with try catch block. It will be finally block will be there to maintain the cleanup code inside finally block. Okay, and this is already told that this point is already read. Already we have finished in the note. Next, finalize. Next is finalize. Finalize is a method. Finalize is a there is a method called finalize. This is some important question, guys. This one. What is the difference between final, finally, and finalize? Okay. Now, finalize is a method. This will be always executed by the garbage collector. We will not call off this method. Okay, we will not call this method. Who is going to call means garbage collector will call this method before going to remove the unused objects. Unused objects from the heap memory. Unused objects from anywhere in the memory. If it is any unused objects is available, then garbage collector will call this method before going to delete that objects. Before going to delete that object, okay, then this finalize method will be called. Okay, let's read it. Finalize is a method always invoked by the garbage collector just before destroying an object. Just before destroying an object to perform cleanup activities. Once finalize method is complete, completes, immediately garbage collector destroy that object. After completing of that finalize method, then immediately it will delete of that object from the memory. Okay. Next, finally is a finally is a block responsible to perform note. Okay, just to explain about three. Finally is a block responsible to perform cleanup activities related to try block. If any resource is opened in the try block code, to close that, to close or to clean up that resources, whatever resources opened as part of try block will be used in the finally block. So will be closed in the finally block. Now, whereas finalize method is responsible to perform cleanup activities related to object, that is whatever resources associated to any object. Okay, any object, any resource is allocated, so that will be deallocated. that memory, whatever that memory is are assigned for that object, that will be deallocated before destroying an object by using finalize method. So the finalize method will be call that. Who will call? Garbage collector internally JV will call that. Once it is finished means then those are eligible for to remove that object from the memory. Next. Next is return and finally. Return and finally, with respect to this, we will do of some program also now. Now let's take it off. Now normally let's try. I'll write off some exception which is throwing off some exception. We'll write some code. Divide method will throw divide of int divide of 10 comma 5. Create of one method, okay, and it is written of int. After 10 by 5, it is going to return of some value, right? So in that case, compulsory this method should return some value back to the caller. What is the type? It is of int type. If it is a void means no need to return anything, okay. If it is a something other than void means compulsory we need to return that value in result equal to I by j, okay. It will give some value, return result, return result. Then this value will be, then this value will be control z, right? We can write directly the statement inside system.out.println, or okay, or we can store this res. Whatever that is returning this divide method, that I am storing in this variable, and this variable I am going to display. Result in main method is res. Okay. Now if I am passing correct values, if I am passing correct values, no issue. Let's try. So this will call and this will result will be returned back to the two value will be returned back to this place to the main method. Okay. Now let's the two value I am printing. Right. If you want, you can debug it. Debug it. Debug the application and call off this method. Now go line by line. See, it is calling off divide method. Okay. And after this first line is executed, the result is 2. That value I am returning back to main method. It is returning. Here it will come. Go to next line. The result will be coming here 2. That value I am printing in the line number 8. Okay. Now let's see. In this case, now return is doing in the main method, right? So now if try block is there, catch block is there, okay, try block is there, catch block is there, sometimes this may throw an exception, right or not? This may throw an some exception. Then in that case, try block, try catch. Finally I'm writing try catch, yeah, right, this value, right, this value inside here, and return return result, okay, return result, return result. So there is no guarantee that this line will execute in the try block. So compulsory we need to write return statement in catch block also. They give some default value, some 0 something, whatever it is, doesn't matter. Catch block. Okay. Catch block inside. So if you are writing the return statement inside try block and catch block, then it is not mandatory to write finally block. Then it is not mandatory, it is not compulsory to write finally return statement in finally block. Okay, let's say if we are not writing return statement in finally in try and catch, then compulsory we need to write inside finally block, inside at least somewhere inside method we need to write return some 10 I am returning. So then in this case always, then always it must be last statement guys, again must be last statement only again. Okay, even we can keep here, or we can, let's see, even we can here also. So compulsory, if you are not writing the return statement in try and catch, compulsory we need to write in somewhere in the final block or end of the line we need to write return statement. Then only, otherwise without this return it will not accept, again it will give an error. This method is throwing an error. See, the method must return a result of type int. The return type is here as int value is there, the divide method. So compulsory we need to return up some integer value back. Okay, now what is the difference between writing, if I am writing return statement inside, if I am writing return statement inside finally block, even if you are writing normally, what is the result of 10 by 5 guys? What is the result of 10 by 5? 2, right? Now if we are returning try block and catch block, we are writing return statement, and even though we are writing finally block also we are written some value, right? Then always it will take the finally block value only. That whatever that return value is written by the try and catch, it will be override by finally block. The actual value is 2, but that is overridden by finally statements. Always the finally block will execute, right? Even though if it is coming error also 0. Normally in this case it is the exception, right? In this case it is the exception. Now let's see, in this case also it will give as 10 only. Final block is executed, but the result is coming as 10. Result is coming as whatever that you are keeping here 100. Just assume. Always it will return 100 only. If you are writing any return statement in the finally block. Now let's go and read it. Even though return statement present in the try and catch block, even though return statement present in the try and catch block will be executed after that only. 1 second. Yeah, even though return statement is present in try catch block first where the return statement is there, try and catch is there first, right? So that will be executed first. Finally block will be executed, catch blocks first, and finally block will at the end, finally block will execute. After that only return statement will be considered. Whatever the return statement is at the end, that only will be considered always. That means finally block dominates the return statement of others. Finally block dominates the return statement of, normally if return statement is there here, the result should go back from here only. Actually it should not come to the next one, but the return statement, the finally block is dominating these return statements. Okay, whatever the value they are returning, that is dominating whatever the value that is there in the finally block, that only it is returning. Okay, that's what finally block dominates the return statement of try and catch. Okay, if a method returns a value, if a method returns a value and also try catch final blocks in it, we have 3 blocks. Okay, then we need to remember 2 rules. Okay, we need to remember 2 rules. In that case, what is that means? If a finally block returns a value, if a finally block returns a value, something return statement is there in the finally, then try and catch block may or may not return a value. Even it is there or no issue, if not there also No issue, because always it is overriding the finally block return statement. Okay, that's what the first one. If a finally block does not return a value, if a finally block does not return a value, then compulsory these two must return the value. Then these two try and catch must return the value. Then in this case, whatever that value that is there, in this case it will throw an exception. No issue. It is a 0. Why it is 0? In the catch block, we are returning 0. Right? That is the reason it is displaying 0 value. If we are not returning in the finally, then compulsory we need to return in the try and catch. Okay, if you are returning in the finally block, then try and catch is optional or not mandatory. Okay, that's what this example. Next, if return statement present in the try, catch and finally, then finally block will return. Finally block return statement will be considered always. So whatever the return statement that is available in the finally block, that only will be considered as always. Okay, that only will be considered as always. That's what just now we are discussing the above points. So when always I'm telling finally block will execute, right? So is there any way? Is there any way to without executing the final block can we return that? There is only one possible way. There is only one possible way that is called that is no need of this one. Let's system dot yes system dot exit system dot exit of 0, sorry, 0 not 1 0 system dot exit of 0. In this case only, in this case only it will, in this case only it will give as never. Now in this case only it will exit. In this case only, oh it is of 0 is there 5. In this case only without executing finally block, it will come out of the, see, it is not executed finally block. See, want to write one statement here from the out.println try, try block, only try block will execute the, and it will come out of that finally block is not executed, which is the situation if system dot exit of 0 is adding in the code, then there only always the code will come out of that code. Okay, the rest of the code will never execute. There is a one more scenario. There is only one situation where finally block won't be executed. Okay, whenever you are writing system dot exit of 0, then in that case only the program will execute at that line. Program will execute in this line. Okay, normally, so always if you are not writing this also, see, always it should return off, just comment this one. Okay, now always it will return 100. Final block also executed 100, always it is returning, right? If I am exiting adding this line, then the rest of the lines code will not execute, only try block will execute, and then it is coming out of that function. Okay, that's only one way to come out of without executing finally block. Okay, next, throws. Next is throws. Already throws we have discussed. Already throws that we have discussed. So within the method, if you are not handling that exception, within the method, if you are not handling the exception, then whoever calling that method, they are responsible to. They are responsible to handle that exception. Even they also not handle that exception, then they need to throw that exception out of their method. Okay. See, in our program, if there is a any chance of raising an exception, there is a possibility of exception, compulsory we should handle that exception by using try and catch or by using throws, otherwise it won't execute. Let's take it off this example. Let's yeah. So what I'm writing, public static void main method. This is main method. Okay. Inside this main method, I'm writing of method 1. Okay. Again method 1. Inside main method 1, I'm calling of method 2. Inside method 2, I'm calling of method 3. So in the method 3, I'm writing of one statement, class dot for name. Let's say this is not there. Just assume. It's throwing an error. So we need to use either try catch block or throws. Okay, I'm using of throws keyword. So that means if any exception is coming in this method, throw that exception out of this method. So who is calling this method 3? Method 2 is calling. So method 2 is responsible to handle this exception. So if this is not there, then we need to write in this case compulsory in the try and catch at least. Try and catch. We need to write this statement in the try and catch, then only this exception will go. So even if you don't want to write try and catch in method 2 also, then throw that throws exception in the method 2 also. Throw class not found exception. And then who is calling method 2? Method 1 is calling. At least we need to handle the method 1. At least we need to handle in method 1. Even there also, if you are not handling that exception, there also we need to throw that exception. Like that, wherever whoever is handling that exception, okay, until that compulsory we need to throw that exception. If you're not handling, throw it. If someone is handling, then until that even in the main method also we are not throwing, then JVM will stop the execution. Even see it is stopping off at the main method, or else at least we need to write method 1 we are calling in the main method, right? At least we need to write try catch in the main method of calling in method 1 at least. From the router println enough e dot to string. Okay. So in this case, we are handling. We handle that exception which is coming from method 3 to method 2, method 2 to method 1, method 1 to main method. So in the main method, we are handling that exception by using try catch. Then in this case, this is not required. That's what the meaning of this one. Okay. In the above program, if you are removing at least one throws, then the program will not work. If you are writing try catch is not will work, or if you are not removing of any method, if you are removing of this throws class, then compiler will not compile the code. Okay, that's what the point of this one. Next, throw. Next is throw. So throw means if you want to throw off any exception intentionally, okay, or if you want to raise an if you want to terminate the program, if you want to terminate the program intentionally in the middle of the program, then we can use of throw keyword. We can use of throw keyword in between. Okay, so by using throw keyword, we can throw our own exception. We can throw our own exception. See, given sometimes we can create a exception object explicitly. We can hand out to JVM. JVM will terminate that program in the middle. Okay. Now in this case, normally it is throwing off arithmetic exception, right? So I don't want to write that. Directly I want to throw exception. Directly I want to throw an exception without writing all those nonsense. Okay. Without writing everything, directly I can throw an exception. Normally Println 10 by 0. This will throw an exception. Which exception? Arithmetic exception. Right? So instead of without this, I want to throw that exception intentionally without any line. Now throw new arithmetic exception divide by 0. Please change the value. I'm giving some message. See, it is throwing the intentionally. The message exception we are throwing intentionally. We don't have any statement to throw the exception, but I am myself I itself I am throwing that exception intentionally. So then in that case, the throw keyword is required. Okay. Next, customized exceptions. Till now we are discussed. Till now we are discussed exceptions. Exceptions which already there in the predefined. Which already predefined exceptions that we have seen till now. Right. Now let's say I want to write our own exceptions. I want to write off our own exceptions. Then in that case, we'll go for we need to create our own exception classes. Our own exception class. How to create that? Now let's we'll take up some example. Okay, sometimes to meet the programming requirement we can define our own exceptions. Such type of exceptions are called as customized exceptions or user defined exception. The exception classes which we are created, then we'll call it as a user defined exceptions. Let's create of one exception class. Let's take this. Finish it. So what is that? Let's copy paste. I'm writing some exception I am creating my own exception. So that is extending of a runtime exception to get the behavior. To get the exception behavior, we need to throw off. We need to extend either exception or runtime exception. We need to get that to get the exception behavior for our class. We need to extend either exception or runtime exception, and we will write off one constructor. We will write one constructor with some message, whatever the message that we want to give, customized message whenever we are throwing off this exception. So that time this constructor will execute that. Okay, internally that message will be passed to this runtime exception class constructor. Now write one class fund test. Yeah, this is the main method. So inside main method I am doing of some money transfer. Just some example of some money transferring some amount. Okay, this is the sender and this is the transfer amount. Okay, before that compulsory we are sending some balance to some other account, means compulsory that balance amount must be more than your transfer amount, right? Your balance should be more than the transferred amount, right? If that is not there, means let's say your account having 10,000, you are trying to transfer 20,000, it's not possible, right? It will throw an exception, insufficient balance, right? Now let's see that double sender balance is 10,000. Okay, send money, I'm writing off one method. So inside this method, sender balance I'm passing, and as well as transfer amount also I'm passing. So I have balance is 10,000, but I'm trying to pass 10,001 rupee, right? Then in this case, if sender balance is greater than or equal to at least same, both must be same, then only it can transfer, right? Maybe then in that case, your account balance will become zero. Okay, sender balance is greater than or equal to transfer amount balance. Okay, if that is not, the condition is not satisfied, then it will throw an exception, insufficient balance, please check your balance. Some error message it will throw. Let's see that. It is giving of insufficient insufficient funds, please check your balance and try. Please check your balance and try. This I am throwing intentionally my exception, right? User defined exception. See, this is of my own package, com.techno.ibc. Exceptions of insufficient fund exception. This is my class. Okay, my own class, this is one. Now if I am giving as my balance is 10,002 rupees, I am transferring 10,001 rupees. Now in this case, see, amount will be transferred. See, amount is transferred message. Then in that case, this block will executive block. So if else block is coming, we are throwing an exception intentionally. User defined exception, we are throwing it. That's what the user defined exceptions. Okay, and along with this, I'll send off some exception programs and exception interview questions. Please go through that and then come for tomorrow class. If any doubt is there, we'll discuss it. Okay, guys. Yeah, I'll share this exception programs and some interview questions also is there. Please go through and then come for tomorrow's class. If any doubt is there, we'll discuss it. Yeah, thank you guys. That's all for today's class. We'll meet tomorrow again. Thank you.